Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. Our call to order. Bring this meeting to order at exactly 1 p.m. on April the 11th. Our land acknowledgement statement. Township of Hamilton is situated within the traditional territory of the Mississauga, Anishinaabe, and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. Our work on these lands respectively acknowledge their resilience and their long-lasting contributions to the area now known as the Township of Hamilton. Item 3 on our agenda. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or in general nature thereof? Seeing none, that shall be recorded. The agenda has been circulated. Could I have a motion, please, to confirm the agenda for April 11th, 23, moved by John, seconded by Mark. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Delegations and presentations. State of the county. Welcome Jennifer Moore, CAO, and Glenn Dees, Director of Finance for the County of Northumberland.
Good afternoon. So we're here. We're happy to be here. This is our first of this year's road shows. We have I think you're probably pretty familiar with the format of the presentation at this point. I know most of you have seen it before. We only have, I think, one brand new member of council that won't have seen this before, but I know that Councillor Butter is familiar with much of what happens at the county through some of the other committees. So we'll go through the material. I'll try and keep it fairly high level. And then of course, we're here for any questions as we go through. I'm moving it now. Okay, perfect. So same format, as I said, as usual, we'll take a little bit of a look back at 2022 and then look ahead to what's going to happen this year. And Glenn will speak to some of the budget overview. Just a quick reminder, this is our current vision and our mission. And it is, of course, to bring together people, partnerships, and possibilities for a strong and vibrant Northumberland. And you'll see that language used throughout many of our comments. We do currently have an initiative underway to update our strategic plan. So you'll see that come out later this year. We had our first all-day session to discuss that last week. And we'll continue on over the next few months with some consultation and come out with a new document about what our priorities will be for this term of council. So as I said, we'll start off with looking at 2022. We finally emerged from COVID-19, and we've now removed those slides from the presentation. So we won't have any more talking about that for now. But it certainly there is some lingering impacts on the county in some of our departments, particularly long-term care. Their operations are still very much impacted, and some of the financials are continuing to flow through the process. So we'll start with one of our first priority is economic prosperity and innovation. Some of the highlights from last year, we of course advanced the development of our housing builds. So we're going to be delivering 84 new units. I think some of you are probably familiar with the Elgin Park redevelopment. That's at the corner of Darcy and Elgin. It was 18 units, and when it's fully built out, it'll be a total of 40. And then we're also working with 62 units. We've purchased a property a couple of years ago on Ontario Street. The RFPs are out on the street now to move forward with that build in Cobourg as well. And then we have continued to work on other initiatives that nothing concrete yet, but certainly working throughout last year to explore other opportunities for expanding housing, because we know that is certainly critical to many aspects of seeing the county and its residents succeed. When we look at local economic growth, of course, we have our Business and Entrepreneurship Center. There's always a lot of busy work there going on. We helped launch 73 new businesses, and that created over 100 new local jobs. They've really done a lot of work to target their programming. The Agri-Food Venture Center, of course, continues. An additional 6 new food businesses were started there, and the expansion of 12 businesses last year. We also saw some funding in a partnership with CTDC, the Training and Development Center, and the Manufacturers Association, and that was looking at ways that we can explore and expand the skills and knowledge of job seekers with employers in sectors facing labor shortage. So a very targeted type of skills development opportunity there. So a lot going on in that priority. Oh, we skipped way ahead. There we are. We're at sustainable growth. So sustainable growth, again, our second pillar, the Northumberland Next official plan update, continued work on that through 2022. It's slated for final review and approval in 2023. However, with the announcements that came out last week, we might see some changes to this, but it did progress throughout 2022 for a lot of the consultation and background study work that needed to be done. We did launch our initiative to deliver countywide high-speed internet. I think that one has been fairly well covered. It's a $45 million federal and provincial funding contribution, well over $100 million project, and that continues to move forward and hoping to see that start construction later this year. We also made significant advances on the Golden Plough Lodge. Again, hopefully everybody is watching that one as it's being developed and built. We're seeing it grow. It's got a great prominent location and we can see it coming to life. Now it's got to a stage where we can very much see what it's going to look like. And of course, the Northumberland County Archives and Museum will be at the front of that building. So the facility is now just getting past the 50% completion point. A lot of work on our road network, as we do each and every year. A number of construction projects. Did a lot of work with County Road 64 in Brighton and intersection improvements at the hamlet of Welcome and Port Hope. And we continue to get some feedback as we look at advancing other projects. We did the replacement of the Loomis Bridge in Brighton and completed rehabilitation on the Dartford Bridge in Trent Hills. Continued with the design work on the Trent River crossing in Campbellford. And we also did some repairs to the existing Campbellford Bridge. Also, as a bit of a reminder that we continue to do the ongoing maintenance and winter operations for our over 500 kilometers of roads. So that's certainly keeps us busy, as well as the surface treatment program that we have in partnership with member municipalities. Our next pillar is thriving in inclusive communities. We did launch the community paramedicine program, some wonderful feedback there. The largest portion of that program, of course, targets the long-term care sector. So folks that are at home and they're either on a wait list for long-term care or approaching the need to be on one of those wait lists and get into full-time care. It's been absolutely fabulous comments from the public, and very pleased with the service that we're able to offer. And we've recently learned that program will be continued. That funding has been extended. We've launched the regional bus service. So that one, again, is connecting communities within Northumberland, and then also a secondary connection to Go Transit in Durham, so that you can have that full connection throughout the county. So that's currently a pilot program, and we'll see over the next few months. We've just passed the halfway point, so we'll be able to see how that what the ridership is and whether that will be maintained. We did develop a strategy to recruit ECEs. There is a great video. I didn't bring it with us today. It takes about 3 minutes. It's on our website, but it's really a great outreach to say, we know we need ECEs. We know we need more daycare. And in order to have the daycare, we need the folks to work in the daycare. So wonderful program, and also encouraging opportunities for folks to get the training and the skills. They have a wonderful community here. So continuing to encourage that. We've also advocated for enhanced tools in the homelessness system coordination. The county does play a big role as the system manager for that, as in our role as service manager. We do deliver a lot of vital services, including the emergency shelter at Transition House. We partner with a third party to operate that. We're the primary funder. And then this year we also funded a warming room in addition to rent supplement programs, motel overflow programs, a number of an outreach worker. So there's a lot of things that we are doing in the space of homelessness. Leadership and change. There was quite an initiative to advocate for the Via Rail Train 651 to be reinstated. That was a great initiative led by the county team in partnership with our provincial government representatives to try and put pressure on Via, because our commuters desperately do need that ease and cost-effective way to get into the city for work. We also advocated for the revision to the proposed federal electoral boundary plans, and we saw those changes come to fruition. It was originally proposing that our county would have new divisions in it, and it's seen us come back to one unified riding, and with a couple other of our neighbors attached, but it does keep Northumberland County whole, which was really the main objective for that. Of course, we continued with the Ontario Health Team Northumberland, and that one is a very exciting initiative. We continue to roll along as new things come forward, and the level of collaboration there with the healthcare partners are very exciting. And it's certainly great to have that link because there's so many ways that municipal government can partner with healthcare and the way they deliver their services. And one of those good examples is the Outreach Healthcare Center that's being provided out of Colborne. And we'll look to see if that model can expand in the future. But that's been a really great pilot where we can look at municipal spaces and healthcare partners accessing those spaces. And we also introduced the corporate people plan is what we're referring to that as, really looking at new ways that we can attract and retain workers to the county. As most of our organizations are seeing, it's a really tough labor market, and we need to make sure that we're staying on top of that and being creative and innovative in the ways that we can attract and retain staff. Without staff, we won't be able to deliver all of our great services, so we want to make sure we can keep them on board. So some of the things in 2023, many of the 2022 initiatives, of course, will continue. I had mentioned the Commuter Connect pilot shuttle service. So that pilot will continue through the first portion of this year, and then we'll have some data there. Of course, we're looking at the Agri-Food Venture Center. There is a bit of capacity in that building, and looking at what we can do to expand and enhance those services. Strengthening our understanding and our partnerships with our local Indigenous community. There's some great work that's happening with NCAM, so the archives, looking at their first exhibit at being focused on Indigenous languages. We've also started to work with through our ECEs, through our early childhood programs. There's some great partnerships again with the Indigenous community. A lot of work happening with social services and looking at the agencies in collaboration for homelessness, individuals and families, how we can continue to maintain that coordinated response. The Business Entrepreneurship Center, of course, is doing significant work to continue to reach out to small businesses and helping them grow. And when we look at our safety and well-being plan, that collaborative table is continuing to work. It's been through the original design phase in 2021, and now they're getting into the implementation phase. So they have their 4 priority areas of poverty, employment and income, and mental health, as well as substance use and addictions, and affordable housing and homelessness. So they will be looking to make progress towards those. The construction will continue. Oh, there we go. Construction will continue through this year on the Elgin Park buildings. So the first 2, we should see folks move into those later this year, and then they will demolish the balance of the units and start construction on the second 2 units. So they will be 4 identical units across there. We also have the proposed progress on the design for the Trent River crossing. There will be a public information center coming up in the next few weeks, and anyone that's interested, of course, encourage them to do that. And the County Road 64 reconstruction, there's significant work to be done within Brighton. So there will be, actually, I believe it's past the community consultation, but there will be more work going forward in that design, and that work would be done next year likely. begin design of the Brighton Emergency Services Base. So there was an announcement just recently with some land changing hands between the municipality and the local school board, and that will be the location of the new joint base. We've already done 3 joint bases, so this will be the 4th, Brighton being the final of our 6 bases that needs to be redeveloped. We're currently cohabitating with the fire department in a very small and cramped space that everyone is outgrowing. So that will be exciting as we start on that. Preparation for transition of recycling system to producers. Again, this is one that it's been precipitated by the provincial government. We have recently announced that we will be selling the material recovery facility, the MRF, in Grafton by the end of the year. We do have a conditional offer, and the purchaser's been announced. So as we get more information through that transition phase this year, that will happen, and look for that full transition to take place by the very beginning of 2024. So that will be both exciting and a bit challenging for some of the folks that are impacted, but hopefully we can minimize those impacts. The residents should not see any of their services change. They should be stable at least until 2026 when the full province goes through that conversion. Oops. Continuing on, of course, we welcomed our new council on board, and we continue to have various training initiatives. Tomorrow at council, we'll be doing the infamous integrity commissioner training, but we've also been doing some a little more fun activities, like doing some field trips out to some of our facilities and getting the new council up to speed on all the things that the county has to offer. We will, as I mentioned at the outset, conduct community consultations on the development of our new strategic plan. We're working on our communications master plan this year, as well as developing a social housing master plan. And that's really looking at our current housing stock and where we intend to go in the future, what units may be redeveloped, where we should expand, those sorts of things. So we have been already working on that, but there will be certainly more to come. And with that, I will turn it over to Glenn for the next few slides.
Okay, thanks, and good afternoon, everybody. So just a couple of slides here to highlight the county's 2023 budget and long-term financial plan. This represents really some of the information that was in the 2-page infographic that we provided when we came in this morning. So just a snapshot of some of the key elements within the infographic. So firstly, looking at the county's 2023 budget, you can see at the top of the slide that the county's budget totals just over 213 million for the year. And then the components in the pie chart between operating capital and reserves for the county's budget. 2023 does represent a larger than typical budget, and this is really as a result of extraordinary, non-recurring large capital projects such as the GPL NCAM redevelopment and the Elgin Park housing expansion and redevelopment projects in Cobourg. You also see at the top of the slide here that financing from the levy for the budget is just over 68 million, and this does represent an increase of 6% over the 2022 levy. It is after growth, and it's comprised of a base levy increase of 4.9% and a dedicated infrastructure investment increase of 1.1. So 1.1 for dedicated infrastructure investment, and then 4.9 on our base for a total 6% increase. Moving down now into the charts, looking at how the county funds services, excluding debt and reserves. You can see in the chart that a significant portion of sources of revenue does come from grants and subsidies. It represents approximately 40% of the county's revenue, and this really is reflective of the county being a full service upper tier municipality with significant funding coming from provincial ministries, and primarily this is for mandatory services that we have in the areas of long-term care, paramedics, social services, social housing, and childcare. The last chart at the bottom just displays how the property tax dollars are allocated by service area. The largest proportion of the levy goes to our Public Works Department, our Transportation Department, and this is really in respect to the extent of infrastructure that they have. So for capital works as well as operating costs, with very minimal in the way of grants from upper levels of government. So a significant proportion of the levy is allocated to our Transportation Department. And you'll see here as well that Social Services is next in line for the largest proportion of those property tax dollars. So even in respect to receiving significant dollars from provincial ministries, there is a cost share component usually involved with that program delivery, and that's primarily sourced from the county's levy. So the second page in the infographic focuses on the county's 10-year financial plan, and what we're looking at on this slide is really just a snapshot of anticipated capital investments in 2023 going out to 2032 within our 10-year model. So some of the items identified here are multi-year projects that are already underway, as Jennifer had commented on, showing the remaining project costs, such as what we see for the GPL NCAM redevelopment project. There are also future years projects captured here in the long-term model, such as the new Campbellford Bridge, community housing, including projects underway such as the Elgin Park redevelopment, and projects that we have on the horizon, such as our Ontario Street project that Jennifer mentioned, and then future placeholders that we have later in the model for expanding housing. We then have our more typical recurring type capital items, such as our annual roads projects, fleet, etc. But you can see here that there really is a significant amount of investment contemplated over the 10 years. It totals just over 340 million. And really it was a challenge updating this 10-year model with the last budgetary cycle in respect to significant cost escalations that we're seeing, particularly around construction activities. And then the balance of what you see in the infographic really just displays what we have from the perspective of reserves and debt within our law. So with that, that concludes the presentation and available for any questions.
John, go ahead.
Thank you for your presentation. It was very good. The couple of questions that I have deal with two projects that have been underway. The Campbellford Bridge. You say that you're in the information session now to the public. What's your projected cost when this bridge is finished?
So we've already incurred some costs, but total what we're forecasting going forward is about 30 million.
Okay, I'm not too sure about that projected cost because I was on council back in between 2010, 2014 when this bridge came up to fruition, and the costs were lower then. And it seems to build up every 5 to 10 years. It just seems to either double or triple. So if you're only in that stage now, you're probably looking another 5 years. So you could be way over those costs that I look at.
Yeah, they're about 40%, I think, design completion, or maybe a little bit better than that at this point. So they are starting to refine their cost estimates. But over the last couple of years, we have seen tremendous inflationary levels. So that's certainly impacting what the costs are.
Yeah. I have another question. Through Mayor
Go ahead, John, please.
The Golden Plow Lodge, and I know what you just said through, construction costs and whatever else, you're projected to 65 million. What's the, what do you see in the near future? What's your projected cost going to be when it's finally finished? Because it was supposed to be done 22. It's going to be way over that. So what's your projected cost for that?
Yeah, we have extended the completion timeframe for that. There was some delays. We continue to work with the general contractor to try and look at how he can meet that schedule. And as far as the cost, yes, there have been some escalations, and we're working with them to finalize what those escalations be.
And sorry, just add the 65 million is what we're forecasting going forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
Maybe a follow-up question to that might be, what's the projected overall cost of the GPL that we are aware of right now?
So total costs, including hard costs, soft costs, acquisition of land, construction financing costs, I believe are just shy of 130. That's the latest estimate.
John, any follow-up?
Looking at, when you look at your cost, you hope $30 million. My own mind right now, I can't. That's what I think about
As they get through, as they refine the design, then they'll be able to nail down those costs further. When we look at some of the initial costs, there is the bridge construction cost, but through some of the changes to the design that are in response to some of the public consultation, we've actually been able to reduce some of the property acquisition needs. So there'll be some savings there, but then we know the actual costs of construction are escalating. So, as we go through the consultation and the balance of the design phase, there's still a few things that we know are going to change that will have financial impacts, both positive and negative.
I guess we'll go around the room. Larry, questions?
Thanks, Jennifer and Glenn. That's great. And through you, Mr. Mayor, just a couple of rudimentary questions that I have is with regards to your strategic plan, you talk about including the consultation with the public. How do you plan to do that?
So actually, that's just going to launch shortly in the next few weeks. So we do now that we have we spent last Monday all day with council. There's already been an interview process with all members of council and all members of the senior staff. So that will get together. Just over the weekend, I did receive the consultant's summary of all that information that will be put out to the public. We're looking at doing some consultation sessions that are facilitated and inviting members of the public and key stakeholders to participate in those to provide their feedback. And there will likely be an online component as well.
Just one follow-up. And with your communication plan, how do you proceed with that? Are you using consultants or are you doing that in-house?
There's actually already consultants that they're looking to use that are experts in that field, and there'll be for this one, it's actually coordinated with some of the member municipalities, so that when we go out for some of the input and feedback on that strategy, we can do it once and then share that information with all the member municipalities, so we're not duplicating that effort. We find that some of the challenges with communication is that the communications landscape has changed dramatically in our community in recent years. What we have for traditional media coverage has really changed. Of course, newspapers we've seen that reduced substantially in what we can access there. We've seen radio stations, how they do their programming and where that programming comes from, of course, has changed. So how much we can get local information there. And then we have so many bloggers, as well as our own social media presence. And how do we make sure that we can get information out to the right groups in a fairly coordinated fashion so that we're reaching as many people as possible. So it's becoming more of a challenge. And I think most municipalities that are not in large markets are all experiencing that same challenge. So coming up with a consistent strategy and how residents want to get their information about what's happening with their municipalities is really important.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Staying with going around the room, Mark, questions, comments?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions if I could. Dealing with road projects, is there any within our own municipality here that you're dealing with this year? Or are they?
I believe there is, but I did not bring with me what our list was. I can circulate an email to what our major projects are this year. We tend to put the big bridges in that in the presentation, but as far as the resurfacing, I don't know all of those off the top of my head, but we can circulate.
The one I was questioning most was 45 Highway. I believe there was a bit of an issue there. Close by
Which section?
right, where's that? What's in that road? Remember Lucas has been
By Myers
yeah,
Road.
by
on the
Myers
bridge
Road
area?
in that area. Because they were talking about shutting the 45 Highway down for a period of time.
Oh, that was for the culvert replacement for
Yes.
Hickerson. Yes, that one is one of our plans for this year.
Is that
is-
still something that's going to happen? And we'll see 45 actually close for a period of time?
I'll have to check with Denise on the timing, but yes, the Hickerson culvert replacement is planned.
Okay, thank you. And my other question comes to waste and our landfill at Brighton. What's your expectancy there still? I mean, since I sat here, I think it's been 7, 8 years, but that's almost 20 years ago now. So where are we with that? Is that something we need to be alarmed with still, or is that something that's
Actually, our estimates are still in the 9 to 10-year range. We've been really diligently working to do more and more diversion. So the new program that will be enhanced this year is mattress diversion. We know it takes up a lot of space. It's also hard on equipment with the mattress and box springs and what they do to equipment. We can't compact them. And we also know that they tend to be the culprit in fires that we have at our landfill. So diverting mattresses will be new, and that'll save some capacity. We've seen with the organics, the uptake in that program has been significant. So we're seeing residents use that, which means we're diverting a lot there. So between all of these programs, we are seeing a lot of diversion happening. So we've been able to continue to extend and keep extending the life of our landfill. It is still a project that will be coming up to determine what we're going to do with our residual waste, and that EA will happen, but the urgency is, it'll take us a number of years, but it's not as urgent as it once was, because we are seeing the diversion programs being used widely by the residents and helping extend that life.
okay? And my last question would be Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus. What is their goals for the next 3 to 4 years?
Their goals for 2023 are very similar to what they were for last year. Housing being their top priority. We have what they're calling 7 and 7. It is a very ambitious plan to seek funding from the federal and provincial government to build 7,000 rental units within 7 years. So what the kind of the rationale behind that number is looking at what our RGI waitlists are in all of our communities across Eastern Ontario. That would dig into about half of the wait list if we were to be successful. And certainly targeting purpose-built rental is where we know that we're not seeing a lot of activity from the private sector. They tend to be more interested in building single-family homes. So that is their really, I guess, their headline priority. Continuing to also focus on paramedic services. One of their big push was to continue the community paramedicine program. We did see in the most recent budget that funding will be there for a little bit longer for sure. So we'll see how much more they want to push on that one. And then the other one being long-term care. Certainly raising a number of issues. We've done some research papers and looking at the funding model. We know that the case mix index is not a very good way to fund. The data is quite outdated by the time it actually translates into funding dollars. It's very labor intensive, a lot of nursing staff to calculate and capture data rather than having them on the floor. So we've been strongly advocating for that. The other issues is many of our colleagues in Eastern Ontario are still yet to rebuild their homes. So they are seeking better capital support. The province did announce enhanced funding. We have pitched locally to the minister that we would like to see that extended to us because we were excluded because we'd already started building. We said that's not fair. We're seeing all the same pressures. And so far I guess we haven't been told no, but we haven't been told yes either. So we're continuing to advocate for that, but all of our colleagues are pushing very hard to get that enhanced level of funding. And I guess back to the paramedics piece, beyond the community paramedicine, also looking at some of the factors that are impacting our response times, but out of our control. So pushing for reducing the hospital offload delays and really trying to get that situation improved with some appropriate resources there so that the ambulance can go in and get back out on the road to serve our local residents.
Anything further than Mark? Bruce, questions, comments?
Yeah, answer you, Mr. Mayor. I guess question about the Venture Center. Long ago, I think we were lobbying the county to make sure that it stayed going because of the financial difficulties. Reports we get through the Federation looks like that has turned around. Is that in fact the case and it's doing better?
It is doing better. We're continuing to subsidize it. It is not at a break even, but they've very much stabilized. And what they're seeing is that each year their financial position is improving a bit. They've got a steady stream of clients. We've, I guess, last year, the year before, we added a second shift. So we're seeing a lot of throughput. But again, it's very much intended to be an incubator. So keeping the usage pricing such that businesses can get launched. So they're funded for this year's budget, but they continue to improve, but they're not yet at a break even.
Anything further, Bruce? Go ahead, John, please.
Through you, Mayor Jeb. Just another question. You mentioned about the high-speed internet was subsidized through the federal and provincial governments, and you're going to hopefully start it up again. Is there any target for Hamilton Township the year where we'll have this? Because I know we have a lot of what I'll refer to as dead areas.
Yep.
So
we don't have an exact target, but what we do have from our private sector partners is that we hope that they'll start construction later this year. And it will start in the east and work its way across the county over a 3-year period.
very good. Thank you. Just a comment. I just want to, if you can pass it on to your paramedics. We had a family issue about a couple of weeks ago where one of our family members had a heart attack at 50 some years old. And the ambulance service, because of their equipment and their knowledge, were there in an expedient time. And they transported the person directly to Peterborough and saved her life. So I thank you for that very much.
I'll pass that along to the chief. She loves to hear the good news stories.
Any other questions, comments anywhere? Seeing none. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Glenn. To business. Could I have a motion, please, that the presentation by county staff on the state of the county be received? Moved by John, second by Larry. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion carried. Thank you. Motion to adjourn. That the committee of the whole meeting held on April 11th, 2023 be adjourned at 1:36. Mark, I think they're saying you wanted to do that. Seconded by Bruce. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.